I know.
I'd like to call this evening's council meeting to order. If you'll all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's a pretty serious kid.
Okay. It's time to do some dusting, right? Sorry. All right. Now I gotta find that. Well, good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to City Council this evening. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which is a group of items to be acted upon with a single motion and vote. It's designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters for City Council. I will ask if any citizen or council member wishes to have a specific item removed from the consent agenda for discussion. And at that point, anybody from the public or a council member may request that an item be removed prior to council's vote. The items on tonight's consent agenda include approval of the work session and regular meeting minutes of November the 13th, 2018, and special work session of November the 14th, 2018. Approval of the expenditure vouchers for November the 27th, 2018. Approval of a renewal 3.2% beer off-premises liquor license for Walmart. Approval of a renewal retail marijuana store, retail marijuana cultivation facility for Herbal Alternative, and approval of a special event permit for the Cortez Chamber of Commerce for business after hours to be held December the 13th at the Dolores State Bank. So at this time, is there anybody in the audience or in council that would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda? All right, may I have a motion?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the addition of $44,323.41.
Second.
Lucero.
Aye.
Keel.
Aye.
Noyes.
Aye.
Levy.
Aye.
Sheik.
Hi. We have no presentations this evening. So at this time, is there any citizen that would like to step forward and address council? And I look in this direction because the rest are city staff. All right. Moving on, public hearings. The first item is ordinance number 1258, series 2018. Has to do with approving some structures. NEVA.
Oops, I'm prepared for the next item here. Okay. All right, so this is the second reading for ordinance 1258, series 2018. The city of Cortez was designated by the state as a certified local government in July of 2010. Since then, the city has been awarded 5 CLG grants from the Colorado Historical Society for the purpose of conducting site surveys of potentially historic structures in Cortez. Of the 166 properties surveyed to date, 87 have been determined eligible for historic designation on the city's register of historic structures, sites, and districts. The most recent one was done in 2017 and surveyed the south side of Main Street. Since the first survey was conducted in 2011, 37 of the eligible property owners have applied to City Council for historic designations, received the designation. The 4 properties currently seeking historic designation were determined eligible under the 3rd and 5th surveys completed in 2015 and 2017. The property owners have come forward with the application to apply for historic designation after being contacted by our Historic Preservation Board. The addresses are 21 East Main Street, which is now the Main Street Brewery, 111 to 113 East Main Street, which is Brand Central, 237 West Main Street, which is Slavin's True Value, and 202 West North Street, which is a residence that was known as the Calkins and Merlot House. Included in your packet are the applications and the site eligibility forms for these properties, and the second reading of the ordinance to designate these on the city register. So do you have any questions?
I just had one question, just for my own information. When I was reading through the permitting fees for planning and zoning, it said something about historical use permit or historical site permit, $75 permit fee, is that right?
Yeah, and those fees have been waived for quite
Okay.
some time, so this is free for the applicants.
Okay, well, that's what I was thinking. I just
Yeah.
wanted to be sure that was true. Okay. Council, does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any. It's all historic.
All right. In that case, I will open it up for public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak for or against? All right, nobody's stepping forward, so we'll close the public hearing. If there are no other questions or comments, may I have a motion?
Make a motion for approving the final reading of ordinance number 1258, Series 2018, approving 4 separate structures located within the original town sites of Cortez, Coffin Addition, to be included in the City of Cortez Register, and Historical Structure Sites District, specified in Structure 21 East Main, 111-113 East Main, 237 West Main Street, and 202 West North Street.
I second that.
Noyes,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. All right. Another successful addition to the register. All right, the next item for public hearing is Resolution 27, Series 2018, which has to do with a conditional use permit allowing an open-sided carport. Neva?
Okay. The city has received an application from Edward and Betty Goodall for a conditional use permit to construct an open-sided carport within the front yard setback of property located at 622 North Ash. The zoning is single-family residential. The property consists of Lot 13 and 14 of the Smith subdivision, and it's located right on the southeast corner of Empire and Ash. The applicants are proposing to construct a 28 by 20 carport with 3 open sides. So that means it's just going to be attached to the building, it's going to have a roof, and then the north, south, and west facing sides are completely open. The carport would extend to within 5 feet of the property line, which requires a conditional use permit according to the land use code. The existing home and accessory structures total approximately 2,500 square feet for an existing lot coverage of 33%. If the carport is approved, the lot coverage at build-out would be at 40%, which is right at the maximum lot coverage allowed for the R1 zoning district. The narrative submitted by the applicant state that the carport will allow Mr. Goodall increased mobility and accessibility during inclement weather. The attached sketch plan depicts the location of the proposed structure, and on the board you can see it. It's a rough outline in the purple up there and where it's going to be. So you can see that it's completely within the property and it's not extending out into the right-of-way. The carport will attach to the house's west side and will have a fascia roof trim to match the existing house exterior. The roof of the carport will be pro-panel roofing. So we went over the review criteria that applies to all conditional uses. This is an accessory carport. It is allowed in the zoning district, and it won't be found to contribute to noise, vibration, smoke, fumes, gas, dust, odor, etc. for this. I think the most important thing to note about this carport is that we did have the city's associate engineer look at this project, and he did determine that it will not impede site visibility at all, either from Empire or Ash, which was the biggest concern for this carport here. And I believe that that statement from the associate engineer puts to rest some of the comments and concerns that the other reviewers had on this project. So the project was publicly noticed in the Cortez Journal for both the P&Z Commission and this public hearing. And as for all conditional use permits, the neighbors, property owners within 300 feet of this property received a notice letting them know about the public hearing for tonight. The Planning and Zoning Commission did hear this project on November 6th, and they did recommend forwarding it to council for approval.
All right, Counselor, any questions?
I don't have any.
And forgive me if I overlooked it, but did they have to, or will they have to pull a building permit since a portion of it will be attached to the house?
Yeah.
And opposite or in conjunction with the conditional use permit?
Right. Yeah, and that's how we became aware of this project in the first place. Yeah.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, then I'll open it up to public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak for or against this conditional use permit? All right. Public hearing is closed. If there are no other questions or comments, may I have a motion?
I make a motion approving resolution number 27, series 2018, approving an application for conditional use permit to allow the construction of an open-sided carport within 10 feet of the front yard, setback at 622 Ash Street, submitted by Edward and Betty Goodall.
Second.
Noyes,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. Congratulations. How soon do you anticipate getting that built? How soon do you anticipate getting it built? Hopefully soon? Good.
Before the first snowstorm.
Yes, hopefully. You'll have to work fast. Congratulations.
This could be a rush.
All right, we have no unfinished business, so we're going to move on to new business. Mr. Machen.
Thank you, Mayor.
We're here to talk about the Jacobs Engineering Contract Amendment.
Okay, currently we are in the midst of a 5-year contract with Jacobs Engineering, which is essentially, they're under a retainer agreement for engineering services with the airport. Every time the FAA funds a project for the airport, then we need to enter into negotiations with the engineering firm for that particular project. And we have a project next summer, completion of our taxiway shoulder project. So we had to negotiate fees and do an amendment to this 5-year contract, and that's what we're discussing tonight. So we are required by the FAA, anytime the contract amendment goes over $100,000, and this was going to be significantly over that, to get an independent fee analysis from another engineering firm. So we contracted with J.D. Heithoff in Idaho to do that. We've used him in the past, about 2 or 3 times in the past. And we got a comparative cost analysis from him, what he would charge if he were doing the project. Then we get the fees from our engineer, we compare the two, and we start knocking off the differences and trying to find out where we're wrong or where we're off and how much and why. It's a very long, tedious process. We actually came out ahead by negotiating below the independent fee analysis. We're required to come within 10%, so we're within 0.3, and we're on the low side, so we're in good shape there. The FAA then reviews this negotiated cost, and they give their 2 cents worth of advice or whatever. They had 2 questions, no corrections. The questions were answered to their satisfaction, and they approved the fees. So tonight, we're here to approve this contract amendment. It's significant to note that although the amount is large, $388,000, and change. The Cortez Airport, City of Cortez, is only liable for 5% of that. The state will come forth with 5%, and the federal government, FAA, will pay the remaining 90%. So it's a pretty good bang for the buck. So if there are any questions, I'm available to answer them.
Council, any questions?
I have none. Thanks.
Okay.
All right. May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion that we approve an amendment to the airport engineering services contract with Jacobs Engineering in an amount not to exceed $388,158,000 for Phase 2 of the taxiway shoulder project.
Second.
Levy,
Aye.
Noyes,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. So you get that next project done.
This will finish something we started in 13, but we ran out of money. So it's a long wait, but I'm glad to get it going again.
That 2013 or 1913 or?
1813.
I can't argue with you tonight because
Here we
I
go.
actually rooted for the Broncos this weekend. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I wanted them to beat the Steelers so that we could leapfrog over the Steelers for home field advantage in the race for that. So thank you, Broncos.
I think. You're welcome. Had a lot to do with it. them winning.
What else can you say? All right, Rush, you're up for the next item, which is the airport car rental agreement extension with Hertz Corporation.
Okay. We are currently nearing the end of a 3-year contract with Hertz. We do this only for 3 years because we usually have a good bidding process for the 2 counters at the airport, but things have dried up in the car rental business. There's been a lot of contraction. Although there's a dozen names out there, there's really only 3 main car rental companies, and they're not all dozen represented here anyway in this region. So we really only have Avis, Budget, Hertz, and Enterprise. Enterprise's business model is they want to be off airport, in town, at least in regards to Cortez. So they have a curbside agreement with the airport. They're allowed to pick up passengers there. They pay a fee of 10% for anybody they pick up there, but their total operation is in town. Hertz and Budget used to have counters at the airport. Budget, within 3 or 4 months of this contract period 2 years ago, they went belly up, this particular franchisee, and pulled out. So we've had an empty counter there for the last 2 years. Hertz has remained. They've done a very good job. The corporate office in Albuquerque has been very good in supporting them with additional cars above and beyond what their history normally required, because they knew they were now the sole source of car rental here in Cortez. So they've done a good job with that. Their current contract calls for them to pay a minimum of $1,550 a month or 10% of gross. They've only paid the minimum one time in this past 3-year period. So we're making good revenue on them. They've had a range of $1,712 to $3,831. So they've had, it ebbs and flows with the seasons, as you can probably understand. Their average payments in the last 3 years has been, in 2016, $2,288 per month. In 2017, $2,439. And so far this year, in 10 months time period, it is $2,754. So we've got an uptrend there, due a lot to boutique, bringing in more people, hence more car rentals. I think that trend is going to continue. So we basically, because we didn't get any interest from Enterprise, I had no response from Budget, Avis, so we just inquired with Hertz, do you want to extend the current contract, and they were interested, so That's what we've negotiated, another 3-year contract, same as the last 3 years moving forward. And the minimum is really not a big issue at this point because they've only paid it once, and that was at the very, very beginning when they still had competition with budget. Yeah, and since they've been alone there, they've never had to pay the minimums. They've always been well above it. So we're in good stead there.
Good. Is there any competition at all with Ubers here? Do we have any Uber drivers?
I've heard that we have Lyft to some minor extent here, and of course we have the cab, but I don't know if there's any Uber
I was just
folks
curious.
around or not.
Okay.
So, are there any questions?
I have none, Russ, thanks.
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to extend the car rental provider contract with Hertz Corporation at the Cortez Municipal Airport for a 3-year period.
Second.
Levy,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Noyes,
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Russ. Thanks for putting the Broncos over the edge with you rooting for them. I'm sure that was the fulcrum. I had to shift it, but the balance of power. No, that's one more than I'll ever root for the Patriots, so thank you.
All right. The next item is the bid for winter 2018-2019 supplemental snow removal. Phil?
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, good evening.
Hey, Phil.
What I have before you is the bid we received for the supplemental snow removal. This is the second year we've done this, although last year we didn't even put one of our own blades on the ground. Hopefully, my ardent wish is that we need these guys, and my men can't stay in the sight of snow again for a while, so we really need it. So, we did in fact put this out for bid this year. We did receive 2 bids, but one of them was from Marathon Resource Management Group out of Ashland, Virginia. Ashland, Virginia. I just wanted to say that twice in case you guys didn't hear me say that.
Did
Yes.
they know where they were bidding this for?
Did
they know where we were?
I don't know, but you know, our bid just say that the nature of the bid requires award to a Montezuma County equipment operators only. So we disqualified that bid, and we have the one bid from Daniels Concrete. And his equipment rates. This is not a not to exceed number or a project number. It's an equipment rate number, and these are comparable to last year's rates. So that's it. We just have the one bid with the equipment rates attached. And if you don't have any questions, if you agree with our recommendation, council can make a motion to award the bid for the winter 2018-2019 supplemental snow removal to Daniels Concrete. And these services will only be utilized when necessary.
All right, anybody have a question?
I have none. Thanks, Phil.
He answered mine when it's necessary, so.
But,
He already answered my question.
okay.
Yeah, there's money set aside just for this, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then, so if we don't use them, then the money just goes back into the general
Yes,
public works fund,
absolutely.
correct?
Okay. All right, if there are no other questions, comments, may I have a motion, please?
Honorable Mayor, I suggest, or I recommend we award the bid for the winter 2018-2019 supplemental snow removal to Daniels Concrete.
A second?
Noyes,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr.
Now we can
Johnson.
pray for snow. All right, Resolution 28, Series 2018, amending the fees and charges for the planning and building department. Sam. Or Kathy, or Sam,
Sam.
Hello, Kathy.
whoever.
Very good evening, council. So we're about a month early this time. Normally we do this in December, but because we're only one council meeting in December, we're doing it the last day of November here. So every year, as you know, we go through our fees and rates and amend them accordingly. And over the last few years, we've kept everything pretty much the status quo. Early on, a few years ago, we did change some rates, reduced rates, streamlined the processes, and made it a little bit easier. This go around this year, our annual cash in lieu fee, which is for all new subdivision developments, per our land use code. When anybody comes in and develops a raw piece of ground, 5% of that land has to be set aside for public use like parks, or they can pay a cash in lieu fee, which is based on a 5-year average valuation based on what the assessors provide for us. Just kind of an FYI too, I don't think in the last, I don't know how many years it's been, but we haven't had any cash in lieu fees to assess because we haven't had any developments. So hopefully that's going to change this year. We do have some interest. But anyway, it did go up a little bit again this year. So we're going to $750. And again, that's based on the land use code, the way it defines how we have to decide that. P&Z was presented with that back on October 2nd, and they reviewed our methods and approved it unanimously to bring forward to council. The second is the way we establish building valuation for new construction. We use the International Code Council's building valuation data table, which gives national averages for how much it costs to build a home nationwide. Again, it's an average. Some of our builders are coming in at less than that. Some of the builders are coming in substantially higher. It's a tool that we use where we can point to an empirical data to establish a valuation instead of trying to ask people or trying to determine it on the fly. For the 9 years I've been here, we've always used the previous year's August building valuation data table as the established rate of for valuation. So this, as we go into 2019, we'll use the 2018 August building valuation data table. Be a slight increase. It's been staying fairly stagnant the last few years. Well, about 3 years ago, I think it actually went down a little bit. So it's been hovering around the same mark. And just FYI, I did a little research to see how close ICC's building valuation data table was. National Association of Home Builders was pretty close. They were a little less than we are, but that could be due to methodology and some variables. And besides that, it was a fairly small sample group they took. I think it was only for the 2017 National Association of Home Builders valuation. I think they only polled, 4,000 people responded out of 44,000 solicited in 2017, so it's not a real large portion. But anyway, we're all coming in there pretty close on that. And then the third amendment we proposed to is to include another standalone permit fee. It's for residential decks, and in the past, if somebody wants to come in and build a deck onto their home, it doesn't have a roof, but it is above 30 inches. That's our criteria. If it's over 30 inches, that creates a fall hazard, so we require a permit. Anything less than that, we don't, as long as it doesn't have a roof on it. Anyway, homeowners would come in, and they didn't understand the process of how we determine valuation for decks. And there was always a little bit of tugging back and forth inside the office. So in our view, it's just faster, easier to set a flat fee at the lowest possible rate that we have, which we've determined is about $40, which doesn't quite cover our costs, but it's close. And that's what we've used as a standard as that. So we're just proposing to include for decks $40 flat fee. And then it's easy. When we have homeowners come in, it just makes it simpler on them, and it's saving them a few bucks. And I think it's just the right thing to do. So we're really trying to get people to actually come in and get permits rather than try to run away.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at, and hopefully we'll be reviewing this before the end of the year with the new land use code. That's another reason we don't want to make any big changes. because we're hoping that we're going to have a new fee schedule based on the new land use code provisions before the end of the year. So we'll probably have to revisit this again. This portion, for the most part, the cash in lieu and the building permits will all stay the same, but we're hoping that we have a reduced size of categories for permits for land use codes. So, but we'll do that hopefully by the fall. So, any questions?
Just out of curiosity, because I had a couple of questions. If they are under 30 inches, right, no roof, no building permit fee, but is that also, if they are under 30 inches, they don't have to have a handrail, do they?
That's right. So,
okay.
So it's kind of one of those deals. It's actually a policy. There's nothing in the book that's going to tell you that's how to do it.
Right.
But here's the thing. If you have a residential deck, not a commercial is a whole different animal, but a residential deck, homeowner wants to go out there and want to build a deck, if you don't have any safeguards start kicking in until it gets to 30 inches or above, that means you got to have 4 steps to go up. That means you got to have a handrail.
Right.
And then you've also got to have a guardrail around it for a fall hazard. So that's kind of the trigger. So if somebody comes in and says they want to build a deck, and so we ask them 2 questions. Number 1, is it for a home? And that's 1. And then number 2, is it going to be less than 30 inches off the ground? And we say, thank you for calling, and we'll enjoy your deck.
Right, right.
So that's pretty much the way it works.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's where I thought we were. All right, thanks.
You bet.
All right. Are there any other questions?
I don't have any.
In that case, may I have a motion, please?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to approve resolution number 28, series 2018, amending fee and charges for planning and building department services and materials provided by the city of Cortez, Colorado.
Second.
Lucero.
Aye.
Keel.
Aye.
Noyes.
Aye.
Levy.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Ordinance 1260, Series 2018, has to do with approving the annual appropriations for fiscal year January 1st, 2019. Kathy.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Kathy.
Series 1260, or ordinance number 1260, Series 2018, actually approves the
We're doing 59.
Oh, she said 1260.
The revised. We're doing the revised first.
Right, I just moved because...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I
It should
just
be
moved
1259,
up.
Series 2018. My apologies.
Oh, not a problem. I was just going to go with the flow,
It's rectifying the budget excesses.
According to our city charter, we are allowed to amend our current year budget as long as 8 months of the year have expired. And so we are revising our 2018 budget that was adopted in 2017. And the original budget for all funds was $32,276,181. After we went in and we tightened up those budgets and allowed for some carryovers in some capital projects that happened, we amended the budget to be in total over all funds $31,423,502. So you can see that we lowered our original budgets by $852,679. As I said, some of these were to account for maybe some other capital projects that came up and were approved. It also amended some that were maybe carryovers. And so after we took all of those and amended all of those are the final figures on those. And these were included, obviously, with the 2019 budget documents. Any questions?
So we're even better than we thought.
We are. We're getting through it. We're doing good. I do want to make note of one thing. On both of the budgets tonight, or both of the ordinances, your final adoption says to move and approve something that happened last year. so it should be moved to approve ordinance number 1259 on first reading and set a public hearing for December 11th, 18. That didn't get changed. and I
Okay, does everybody get
apologize.
that? All right.
I'm sorry, one more time.
To move or approve ordinance 1259 and set a public hearing at the first council meeting in December.
It doesn't
For
read
first
that on the
reading.
memo.
It doesn't say it, but you need to say it.
It says to approve
Okay.
fiscal budget on second reading, and it should be to set a public hearing.
It's, okay,
I just needed clarification.
okay.
Yeah, that's
Make it more confusing.
it's getting more confusing.
All right, may I have a motion? Who wants to make a motion on this? Don't you all speak up.
Mayor, I'll make a motion, my best effort,
Didn't have a
approving
chance.
on first reading ordinance number 1259, Series 2018, and ordinance appropriating supplemental funds, rectifying budgeted excesses, and making budget revisions for 2018 fiscal budget, and set for a public hearing on December 11th, 2018.
Good.
Yes, perfect.
I second that.
Noyes,
Aye.
Keel,
We got moved and approved.
you moved. You read it, right?
Say that again.
You read it off the agenda. Yeah,
I'm just joking.
So we're good?
yes.
Okay.
Noyes, I'm gonna ask you again. Keel,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
and Sheik.
Aye. All right, Kathy, hopefully this one will be easier for us to make a
Now we
motion
will
on.
go
I'll do this
to
one.
ordinance 1260.
Okay.
Okay, this is a pretty long process. This takes staff about 4 months to produce this document. And we were finally, after a little bit of a rough start, able to give council a balanced budget during the month of November. And we held meetings at those times with city manager, the finance director, and all of the department heads with council. And our total budget then that was given to council across all funds is $32,870,654. Some of the highlights of this budget are that personnel salaries across the whole city, based on an operating budget of $21,660,044, is 57.5% of the total operating budget. Those are the personnel expenses. A large portion of this budget, $5.4 million, is in capital projects. And out of that, I'm not going to give amounts, but the largest ones are, obviously, we're going to develop the park where the old high school was. That is probably our largest one. Then out of our equipment fund, we are going to purchase various rolling stock for across the funds that use it, Parks and Rec, Public Works, things like that. They all get together, and they know they have a certain pot of money that they have to work with. And as a group, they all get together and come up with what has been approved for that year under the budget and try not to go over that. And so that came to $352,000. And that's the most unique, fun thing I've ever seen, when you get a bunch of guys in a room and you have this pot of money and everybody has their wants. It's amazing. They're a great group. They give and take. We also have $710,000, obviously, out of the water fund that are going to be spent on water distribution improvements and various other improvements to the water treatment plant. There's going to be a distribution leak study done, and also a rate study done, too, of our rates. There are some outdoor park things that are taking place. There's going to be some lighting improvements at both Parque de Vida and the other park. The softball complex field is going to see some improvements. We're going to get some park fencing or some fencing at the dog park and G&A Park, and I'm not sure what park that is. But we're getting
Is it by
those
Denny
two.
Lake? Is it the one by Denny Lake?
That's what it says, G&A, not golf, maybe something, I don't know. And then they're going to repaint the floor at the outdoor pool. I took it off the document, but I don't know what that is, but we're going to be getting some lighting upgrades around town. And then the airport has a very large project in the tune that they're going to be doing, and they're going to be completing the taxiway shoulders, and they're going to do an adjoining drainage project.
Kathy, Gear Natural Area.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I have thought all afternoon, that's G&A. Our debt service, and that's across most funds, most of our debt service is in our water enterprise fund. We have some in our rec center fund, a small one in our hydro plant fund, and then of course the general fund owes the rec center for the balance of City Hall. And all of that debt appears to be $1.4 million. And you know, for a town the size of Cortez and all the improvements that we do and that we've seen around here, that is really, really low debt for what you consider our budget is, what our assets are, et cetera. So, you know, with a little bit of foresight, we've been able to put money back every year to do some really nice capital projects around town, to keep our rates a little bit lower. So that's what this budget represents for the year. We also, during this, or in this ordinance, set the mill levy for the next year. And we have three ways we have to figure the mill levy. We have to figure it according to Tabor. Even though we've deep-roofed, we have to figure it according to Tabor. We have to figure it according to the state statutory, which is 5.5%. And the city's own charter also has a restriction that you cannot go over 5% of the previous year's revenue. So when we developed all of those scenarios, the lowest amount of those is the city's charter. And they're pretty neck and neck with what the state statute is this year. But if you look at Tabor, 1.62, and that sounds wonderful, we're allowed to grow that much, but when you really get in Tabor too, it says you can't raise your taxes, no matter what, once they're lowered, unless you go to a vote of the people. So obviously, our lower one was the city charter of 1.30 mils for 2019. So property taxes, even though we have those limits, have really stayed pretty constant. Very, very minute increases in property across town. Are there any questions?
I have none yet. That was very thorough. Thanks, Kathy.
The same caveat goes on this. Don't forget to set it for a second reading on December 11th.
There we go.
Thank
Third
you.
reading, too.
Yeah, so much fun. Well, I'd like to compliment you and the staff. The budget process is a long, drawn-out thing. It requires lots of time and effort, in addition to all of the other things that everybody has to do just to keep the city operating on a day-to-day basis. And I'm glad to see that we're fiscally responsible, but I'm also glad to see that we spend the money that the taxpayers entrust us with, because it doesn't do anybody any good sitting in a bank. So that's part of the reason why we have some of the lovely amenities we have, is because we spend it wisely, I think.
Well, thank you. And I forgot one person who was really, really one of the most important people that handled that was my assistant, Lynette Reese. She did a fantastic job. Obviously, I've been tied up with other things. And my retirement approaching, I would like to give kudos to her, because she did an excellent, excellent job of doing this. So no matter what happens next year, you will have someone on board who has been through the process, is good at it, and can assist the new person in my position.
Well, that'll be good, because regardless of how good that new person is, they'll need to have somebody
she'll be able to be a
show
great
them the
deal
ropes.
of help.
Well, our compliments to her as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, Kathy.
All right, may I have a motion?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to approve on first reading ordinance number 1260, Series 2018, approving the annual appropriations for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2019, and ending December 31st, 2019, setting the mill levy for said fiscal year, and setting the public hearing on second reading for December 11th, 2018.
Second.
Lucero.
Aye.
Keel.
Aye.
Levy.
Aye.
Noyes.
Aye.
Sheep.
Aye. Roy, money to help control the black and gray marijuana market.
You guys been talking about all this boring stuff like money. Let's talk about dope, okay? I mean, marijuana. The state has established a grant process to reimburse communities and counties for our work in the black and gray marijuana industry. We didn't apply for this last year. In talking to some of the people that I work with, they've convinced me that this is a good thing for us to do. So this year we ask that you allow us to apply for a grant to reimburse us for all of the money that we spend in investigation of the black and gray marijuana, which we have quite a bit around here. Our task force works quite a bit of that, so we'll be able to recover some of that money. So I would ask that you vote to let me apply for this marijuana money, and maybe we can get some reimbursement on it.
I understand what the black market is. What's the gray market when it comes to Scheduled 1?
You know what? I understand what the black is. I'm not so sure I understand what the gray is.
Yeah.
Would it be like
I think it's
caregivers
just a name that they put forward to this amount of money.
Okay.
All right, are there any other questions?
I have none.
On, I have one.
Gary.
On the background here where it says, it'd become an issue with the legalization of recreational marijuana. That, is that your words or is that state words? Or, because, you know, I've read some,
I can't hear you.
where it says that the black and gray market has become an issue with the legalization of recreational marijuana. I mean, is that your experience and your words, or is that like a statewide situation?
That's my words and my experience.
Okay, so personal experience?
Personal experience.
Gotcha, thanks.
But it's always been an issue here, though. I mean, is it worse now than it used to be?
Yes.
Now that
It's legal now.
that's a little, the black and gray market's not.
What they can do is they can grow it, manufacture it, and sell it for cheap, and you can sell it out of the dispensaries. So there's a big market out there for it, and there's a big market going out of state for it. So it's there, it's here. Dispensaries didn't stop illegal growing of marijuana.
Okay, sadly. Are there any other questions, comments?
I don't have any.
May I have a motion?
Make a motion approving resolution number 29, series 2018, approving request to apply for Department of Local Affairs grant money to help control the black and gray marijuana market.
Second.
Levy.
Aye.
Noyes.
Aye.
Keel.
Aye.
Lucero.
Aye.
Sheep.
Aye. Roy, how much are you going to
Thank
apply
you.
for? Do you have any idea of dollars, numbers of dollars?
No, this grant is one of those where you spend the money and then you get reimbursed from the state. So if we spend 20,000, we'll get 20,000 back. If we spend 40, we'll get 40 back. It'll be whatever we spend, we'll get back.
How much have you spent, say, this past year, do you know?
Ooh.
Just a ballpark figure.
I would say we're probably somewhere between 30, 35,000.
Wow. Well, good, that'll be some nice.
And most of that's in salaries,
Mhm.
you know, to work the cases and go to court and do all those kind of things that you have to do.
Would these funds be available to hire somebody additional to help with that?
My plan was to see where we stood at the end of this coming grant cycle, to see how much money that we had spent, and if it's close to that type of money, then we may look at it that way.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Roy.
All right, Phil, approval of the refuse collection fees.
Good evening still.
Hi, Phil.
Hi. I usually do this on the meeting of the 11th, but I'm going to be traveling, so that's why I'm presenting the enterprise rate increases to you tonight. This is for Council Resolution Number 30, Series 2018, establishing refuse and collection rates for the City of Cortez to be effective January 1, 2019. Basically, to cut to the chase, we're proposing a 3.5% increase in dumpster pickup as well as polycar pickups in the city. This would impact residentially 75 cents per month per residential account, and then a proportional increase for the various sizes of dumpsters for commercial and multifamily dwelling units throughout the city. I do want to, make one comment about, the fact that since I've been here for 5 years, and I don't know how you did it previously, but in working with the council, we've made small incremental increases in the refuse rate annually. Between, like this year, we're proposing a 3.5%. So over the past 4 years, we've gone up $2.75 per month over the course, over a 4-year period. And even though now we're facing a 29% increase in tipping fees at the refuse at the landfill, we're not having to pass that cost on directly because obviously it's not our biggest expense, but it is a big component of our overall budget. But we can absorb that and then also make sure that our enterprise fund is healthy, has a carryover balance and working capital, so we can buy rolling stock. We buy a new refuse truck every other year to keep it on a 6-year cycle, and we're replacing the residential recycle truck this year as well. So because we're making these incrementally small increases and we have a healthy fund balance, we're not having to pass on big increases to our users as a result. So does anyone have any questions on this memo? I know that we've talked about this at your work sessions and you have the document in front of you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I have none. I'm just appreciative of, you guys, how mindful you are of the cost being passed on to the taxpayer. And given our circumstances with this new tipping fee increase being kind of thrust upon us, we're still at a place where we can have foresight in order to make sure that.
Well, I thank you, and I mean, Public Works, we have a really hard-working crew, but refuse. My refuse team is, they just get the job done. I don't need to bird dog them, and
right.
It's like whenever I get together with them, I tell them, I say, you want to shut down the city, stop picking up the trash. Yeah. Talk to anybody in New York. When they show the mountains of trash.
Right.
But I do want to point out that even given the stopping of a vast majority of our recycling commodities getting accepted in China, and the single stream debacle that everyone thought was the golden silver bullet to recycling has gone by the wayside because of contamination rates. The efforts that the program that the city has, and this is before my time, with the residential pickup and the way we separate at the public drop-off, is we set the bar in this whole region. Right. We are the model that say that the fingers are pointed at and said, these guys are doing it right. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing the returns, even though the market has crashed a lot, we're still seeing, the returns with our commodity sales because they're the cleanest in the area. The CDPHE recognizes our program and giving us our grant monies to help offset the purchase of that residential recycle truck this year. So the reason that we can keep our rates down and not take the big hit is, not only council's foresight to do the incremental increases, but it's in large part to do the efforts of our team.
Right,
The
absolutely.
refuse team and the recycling team, so.
Yeah, I really commend the recycle team. My wife's a big recycler, and stuff that doesn't fit into the city recycling issues, we collect. And whenever I go into Durango, I have a bunch of stuff to drop off at their recycling center, and you dump everything into one container. And it just hurt me to dump all the metal, the paper and stuff into one thing, instead of separating it, and let the people separate it. It's really a great thing you're doing.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, council, if there are no other questions or comments, may I have a motion for?
Sure. Honorable Mayor, I make a motion. I sort of cut you off there, I apologize.
That's okay.
Yeah. Make a motion to approve resolution number 30, series 2018, establishing refuse collection rates for the city of Cortez to be effective January 1, 2019.
I second that.
Levy,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Noyes,
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Did I'm sorry, did I need to include superseding 33 there?
Put it in.
That's okay, I'm good.
She'll
All right.
edit you.
Does that mean that Phil's done?
No, Phil's not done. Phil gets to now talk about resolution number WE-2018-1, series 2018, about the water rates and water development charges.
Yeah, I'm going to sort of repeat what you just said, just so I can get the title right.
Right.
Okay, so I'm here to talk about the Water Enterprise Resolution Number WE-2018-1, Series 2018, establishing water rates and development charges for the City of Cortez Water Enterprise to be effective January 1, 2019. So this is just a reiteration of what we just went through with refuse. This is an enterprise fund, and we have been small incremental increases in this rate to carry over a great working balance, cover all of our operational costs, as well as reinvest the money into our system, whether it be treatment, training, distribution system, and whatnot. So with the 5% increase, there's a lot of different, there's different rates in here, which is all based on meter sizes, residential and commercial, as well as our water dock for where we have our commercial water docks for hauling, and tap fees. We haven't changed any of our other service charge fees whatsoever. But previously, I've told you exactly what that means to a residential family. We have in 2017, this is 2017 data I have. In July of 2017, there were 2,793 residential in-city accounts. So, based on the average use for a household in the middle of winter, of those 2,000, almost 3,000 accounts, is about 2,700 gallons a month. So currently, that usage equates to $27.60 for the whole month's worth of water. What we're proposing with a 5% increase for that same house at the same month, at the same average flows, is $29 a month. It's an increase of $1.40. And conversely, and this is averages, so when I say there's 2,700 gallons used in February, well, conversely, in August, our average use is 25,000 gallons for the same number of households per month. That's that outdoor use. And that is where you get into elective water use, but it raises up the average for everybody. So for that same, our current rate was $91.88 for that 25,000 gallons. With the 5% increase, it goes up to $96.58 or $4.70. So when we're talking about all of our conservation programs and doing the Western Water Assessment, the work we're doing and we're going to continue to do, we want to drop off that external use that, we're going to try to teach people to be more efficient and effective with their water use so they're not using that much to over-irrigate a place. So although that looks like a lot of money in comparison to the winter month, that is, like I said, averaged over just around 2,800 accounts. So even though that, we're going to be going up that 5%, our monthly per 1,000 gallon rate is going to go from $2.92 per 1,000 gallons to $3.07, or a 15% increase. We are well below all of the statewide surveys that are done, and that's not what's motivating, increasing our rates. It's about keeping the fund healthy, so we can do things with cash rather than borrowing money. And I believe that this 5% increase is another step in the right direction.
Questions? Comments? All right. May I have a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to consider approving resolution number WE 2018-1, Series 2018, establishing the water rate charges and the water development charges for the City of Cortez Water Enterprise, and superseding council resolution number WE 2017-1, Series 2017.
A second.
Keel.
Aye.
Levy.
Aye.
Noyes.
Aye.
Lucero.
Aye.
Chief.
Oh, aye.
Thank you.
I'm so busy
Thanks,
listening to
Ms.
the
Johnson.
chuckling, I didn't hear my name. Thanks, Phil. All right, Ms. Heisman, would you care
Hi,
to
Peyton.
visit with us about the EIAF grant from DOLA for the neighborhood park, rather than the community park?
The neighborhood park, yeah. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. So staff is requesting permission to apply for a grant from DOLA, Department of Local Affairs, and the EIAF fund is the Energy Mineral Impact Assistance Fund. And so what staff is proposing, we've just recently applied for a GOCO grant, and so we're hoping to use those same matched dollars to apply for a DOLA grant. And we are still trying to get the budget all sorted out, so I don't have a number to present to you tonight, but just, I guess, kind of keep in mind that we're using those same matched dollars. And I think it was brought up tonight, we're closing on the property on November 30th, so this Friday, which is really exciting. And yeah, we're really pursuing this grant with DOLA because the focus for phase 1 is infrastructure, and we think we'll be able to get alternative grant opportunities for the parks down the road, park programs.
Will Housing Authority be present, because are they going to, will they be buying the property from us at the same time we're buying the property from the school district, or is that staggered?
No, ma'am, we don't have that set up yet at all.
Okay.
We're buying 2 parcels from the school district, the lot 1 and lot 2, and that, I don't know when that other sale is going to close.
Okay.
Yeah, so the letter that we received from the Housing Authority back in May, they proposed to buy the land from us by September 30th of 2019, so they still have some time before they purchase that part of the property.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I've kind of been in contact with Terry Wheeler from the Housing Authority.
Okay, great. Are there any questions?
Yeah, when you mentioned the matching funds with the city, is that 50-50?
For DOLA, they do require 50-50. And then just to kind of remind you, those funds are going to come from general fund. We have the $225,000 from the general fund that we use for the GOCO, and then I think it was $112,500 from the Conservation Trust Fund for 2019, and those are matched dollars as well. But I know for GOCO, we only have to do a certain percentage, like 25%, and DOLA, we just won't be able to request the same money. But we are able to use the Elm Street extension as part of those match funds, which we weren't able to do with GOCO, so we'll actually be able to request more funds, even with that 50-50 requirement.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if we're going to do the whole park 50-50, it's like, whoa.
No, it's just for this one grant.
Back up the truck.
Even a 50% return on your investment's pretty good.
Yeah, but not for the whole thing.
Okay, are there any questions or comments? Other questions or comments? If not, may I have a motion?
I make a motion approving the resolution number 31, Series 2018, permitting the city to apply for Department of Local Affairs, EIAF grant for the development of the new neighborhood park.
I second that.
Noyes,
Aye.
Levy,
Aye.
Lucero,
Aye.
Keel,
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye.
Peyton, Mike was wondering, the meetings, the signing's at 2 o'clock on November 30th, correct?
No.
I thought it was about 3:30.
She's gonna get me on.
That's Thursday at 3, is that?
She's gonna go by my door and get me as we go.
I thought it was at 5:30.
Okay, enough of this frivolity. We
I
have,
couldn't resist, and that was, that's it.
we have no draft resolutions or ordinances. We have no other items of business. I don't see any citizens other than staff left, so I'm assuming, unless you guys would like to address council from a personal perspective.
I've got a question that somebody in this room might answer.
Okay,
I've been asked a few times, for this parade of lights,
yes.
it's going eastbound on the north lane, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so on the south lane, are people going to be, that's going to be shut down as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
Or, I mean, so will people be parking there in the, where the median section? You know what, will they?
Yes, in the parking area of the southbound lane.
Okay.
On the south side, yeah, on the south side.
Then will people be able to sit on the medians or stand on the medians to watch it, or do they have to stay on the south sidewalk?
My thought is for not to be able to sit on the median.
So they would have to stay on this,
Looking for an accident to happen.
right? Okay, I was just wondering, because I'm like, people are like, well, do we get to use that side, south street? Or do they have to watch it from the south side?
What you're asking is, can they walk all the way up to the edge of the median? Yeah.
Right, well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, okay.
I can't see over.
Yeah, Orly's gonna have an issue.
I can't see over the median, so I guess I have to watch it on video.
We'll find a big guy to hold you on his shoulders.
So, yeah, that's what you're
You
saying.
never thought that you could use Orly as the yardstick for how high those medians were going to be.
I live on the south side. So I guess I'm gonna
It'll
go to the
be
north.
just a skosh taller than Orly.
But then after the medians, then the parade will then go to the middle of the, like,
Eastbound, west
okay.
one side. You can walk up, I think it'd be great.
Right, but then people can walk up across the street to watch it. Okay.
Well, you can watch it from either side, can't you?
Well, you can go up on the sidewalk,
Well, yeah.
or you can,
Or you can stand in the street.
Yeah, you have to. You gotta run, leap over the lead.
There will be no traffic on
Either side.
Main Street at all.
Right.
there's no traffic on the south side, so they can stand in that lane.
Okay. I get it, yeah, all right.
We will have a police officer at every intersection to make sure that we control that. I don't foresee this year's parade being any different
Than last year's.
Woodblock area than it has been the last 38 years I've been here.
Except for Gary's friend standing on top of the medians, I think that'll be.
Geronimo.
I'm sure we'll have people try. And we for sure don't want to happen in our community. We don't have that in town. Where we had a little boy get over and pass away.
Oh, jeez. Don't even think about that.
No.
Well, could you please order some warm weather because it was cold as heck last year. Jeez.
It's winter.
Oh,
That'd be
gosh.
awesome. Oh, yeah, there's supposed to snow on the parade of
Then the
lights.
snowplows can
Yeah.
get.
I'll take care of that part.
Thank you.
Okay, that's your job.
Appreciate that.
All righty.
I'll say that it's been an effort between Phil's crew and mine. It's done well. The realtors were,
Ecstatic.
yeah.
It'd be farther to walk than one
They
is
were
in
sweating it out
for me.
until last week.
Yeah.
We're okay, we got all the paperwork, everything's done. We'll have to bring it in.
Okay, good deal. All righty, there is no city attorney's report, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have to add is, all of you council members got a complaint in your mailbox, and I just want you to know that the constituent is now happy that the problem's been taken care of by Phil.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
All right, city council committee reports. Has anybody been to a meeting?
I've been to 2 meetings. First one is in November 16th, Parks and Rec Advisory Board, and basically we discussed the South Neighborhood Park project status, which Dean has pretty much covered at the workshop. And we discussed the 2016 Parks and Rec Master Plan Review, and it coincides with what we're doing now. The second committee I went to was at the Parks, or the Cultural Center Board, and we had several things going on. The Kelly Black Artist Reception was this evening from 4 to 6. He's a local artist who does terrific paintings. On December 1st, Festival on the Plaza, it'll be right after the Parade of Lights, and the high school choir will be performing at the Cultural Center. There's a toy and candy giveaway on December 15th, sponsored by the American Legion. If people want to donate toys and candy, you can drop it off at the Cultural Center or the American Legion. Southwest Open Schools has a gallery in December and January, and they're displaying some of the Southwest Open High School artwork. See, the Pueblo to Pueblo race will be in April 27th, and the Birding Festival will happen May 8th to the 12th this year, in 2019. And that covers it.
Okay. Any others?
I have none.
Well, Gary and I missed the Mesa Verde Country meeting because I don't think the notice came out in time. So I actually wound up for about the last 30 minutes of it. She was just working on her budget and trying to refine the ways that they can interpret the data that they get in as to how it's best to proceed with advertising and publicizing the area. I must say that I think Kelly has done a really amazing job. She's very conscientious. She's always looking at ways to tweak the system to be able to ascertain which direction is the best way to go. She's done an awful lot of hosting, which means bringing in people, writers, and tour group guide operators to, just publicize this area in the hopes it will generate some additional business. So anyway, she's done a great job. The library had a meeting with the architects. The community was invited, as well as library board and Friends of the Library meeting members, and it was it 2 Fridays ago?
2 Fridays ago.
It was really interesting. Humphrey Police, their key partner, came down and actually conducted the meeting. They had a whole series of questions, which was, if you've been to any of the Southside Park meetings, there were some similarities, but there were also some differences. I think that Eric did, and the staff did a wonderful job of choosing this particular firm. They've done some wonderful libraries all over the country, 2 of which are in this community, and hopefully there'll be a 3rd soon. Both the Dolores Public Library and the Mangus Library are their projects, and they also did the county courthouse, for those of you that may not be aware of that. Anyway, there was a nice community turnout. They got some really good input, and they are now working on trying to get that compiled so that they can bring it back and begin to tweak it a little bit and lay out some ideas about what we might do in order to have that facility be updated and better meet the needs of the citizens of the community. So I'm very excited to see what they come up with. And I think that is all. Is there anything else for the good of the city?
No.
Yeah, I would just like to say, I don't know whether you've seen my guys around lately with the beards on and it's pretty scrubbed and everything. What we do is, first of in January every year, we put each one of us $40 in an envelope. I allow them to grow the beard for the whole month of November, and then we take that money and donate it to the cause. This year, we're donating that amount of money to the hospital.
Very nice.
Good.
Do you saying everybody's shaving in a couple of days?
Friday.
Well, as cold as it is, they won't want to shave, Roy.
After the closing, Peyton can come watch him shave.
But I cannot stand that from Monday.
Very noble, Coach. Thanks.
All right, well, if there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.